Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that somewhere, at this very moment, someone is doing much more than simply thinking about you? Someone is carrying you in their heart like a truth they are too scared to speak out loud, like a fire they cannot put out, like a memory that refuses to disappear no matter how many times they convince themselves to move on. What if I told you the reason they cannot let you go has nothing to do with begging, nothing to do with chasing, and nothing to do with trying to force yourself into their life? It has everything to do with something much deeper and far more powerful. You awakened something inside them. You reached a place in their heart that had been asleep for a very long time. Now they are no longer experiencing ordinary love. They are caught inside the kind of love that makes someone stare at a quiet phone, read old messages again and again, hear your voice in the silence of the night, and feel their heartbeat change the moment your name appears. This kind of love does not wait politely. It does not knock softly and ask for permission. It breaks through every wall, settles deep inside the mind, and refuses to leave. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear explains why some people can never truly forget one person, even after months or years have passed. The answer may surprise you more than you expect. The human heart has never been as simple as it looks. What seems like attraction is often something much deeper. What feels like chemistry is often a reflection of hidden emotions. What appears to be love is sometimes a quiet meeting between the person standing in front of us and the unseen world living inside us. People do not always fall in love only because of who you are. Many times they fall because of what you awaken within them. That is why what I am about to share is so important. Whenever someone becomes deeply and completely in love with another person, there is always a reason behind it. There is always one small moment, one quiet spark, one simple experience that changes everything without anyone noticing. Most people never realize when that moment happens. They call it luck. They call it perfect timing. They believe feelings simply appeared out of nowhere. But the truth goes much deeper than that. Maybe you looked into their eyes with kindness when everyone else looked away. Maybe you listened with real attention after the rest of the world stopped caring. Maybe your smile gave them a sense of peace they had never experienced before. Keep watching, because the next part reveals why these simple moments can become impossible to forget, and why they often stay alive inside someone's heart long after everything else has faded. Maybe you walked away at the exact moment they believed you would stay. Maybe you stayed peaceful while their world had always been filled with confusion. Maybe you chose honesty while everyone around them kept hiding behind masks. Maybe you carried a quiet confidence that made them feel both protected and completely open at the same time. Somewhere in those simple moments, without either of you realizing it, you became exactly what their deepest mind had been searching for all along. That is the mystery many people never stop to think about. Our deepest self does not fall in love the same way our everyday mind does. The everyday mind looks at logic, comfort, appearance, and status. But the deeper part chooses through recognition. It quietly says, I know this feeling. I have been here before. This person is showing me something I lost inside myself. That is why, when someone becomes completely consumed by love for you, the real question is not, why are they so attached? The real question is, what did I awaken inside them? Maybe you were not only kind, maybe you reminded them of the love they wished they had received years ago. Maybe you were not only confident, maybe you reflected the version of themselves they quietly left behind. Maybe you were not only distant, maybe your distance made them chase a feeling they had never truly earned before. Maybe you were not only attractive, maybe there was something about your energy that felt strangely familiar from the very first meeting, and once that feeling comes alive, everything begins to change. Keep watching, because the next part explains why some connections refuse to fade no matter how much time passes. People do not always become deeply attached because someone is perfect. Many times they become attached because that person remains unfinished inside their mind. One meeting, one conversation, one unexpected moment opens a door they never knew existed. After that, every other connection starts feeling smaller by comparison. Slowly, that person stops being just another face. They become a symbol. And symbols always carry more power than simple facts. Listen carefully, because this is where many people become confused. When someone cannot stop thinking about you, it does not always mean they are emotionally complete. Sometimes it means something inside them has finally come alive. Sometimes it means an old part of their heart has been awakened after years of silence. Sometimes it means they have experienced a feeling strong enough to break their usual habits and emotional walls. But sometimes it also means they are placing their own dreams, fears, hopes, and hidden pain onto you without realizing it. They begin believing, "This is the one," when what they are truly feeling is, "This person reflects something my heart has been searching for." That is why this kind of love feels so powerful. It is never only about two people standing together. It is about two unseen worlds, two private stories, two sets of emotional scars meeting in the quiet places neither person can fully explain. Stay with me, because what comes next reveals why this feeling becomes almost impossible to escape. Now here is the part many people rarely say out loud. Sometimes someone loves you this deeply because you allowed them to experience a version of themselves they had never known before. They do not become attached only to your presence. They become attached to who they became whenever they were with you. Think about that for a moment. Maybe being near you made their mind feel calm after years of constant noise. Maybe your presence made them feel fully awake instead of simply existing. Maybe they finally felt noticed after spending years feeling invisible. Maybe you challenged them in a way that helped them become stronger instead of weaker. Maybe your kindness softened parts of them that had stayed hard for far too long. Maybe around you they finally felt safe, understood, valued, accepted, or emotionally free for the first time in many years. Those feelings do not disappear overnight. They quietly grow deeper. Once someone discovers a feeling that fills an empty space they never even knew they carried, they cannot easily leave it behind. They return to it in memories, in dreams, in quiet moments, and in endless questions. They compare every new connection to what they once felt with you. Slowly, they realize the life they once believed was complete had actually been missing something all along. That is why people often say, "I don't know why I can't forget them." Logic cannot fully explain what the heart already understands. Maybe you did something so small that you barely remember it today. A simple conversation, a calm reply, a gentle smile, a quiet silence, a meaningful look, a shared laugh, a boundary you respected, a message that arrived at exactly the right moment, or a goodbye that stayed in their heart much longer than anyone expected. And if you've ever wondered why someone still remembers you after all this time, keep watching, because the next part may answer a question you have carried for years, and that one simple moment became the beginning of a storm that never truly stopped growing. Ladies and gentlemen, a single action can stay alive inside someone's heart for years, especially when they were already waiting for something to change them. That is why this message matters so much. Somewhere out there, someone is deeply and completely in love with you, and the reason may be something you did without even realizing it. What was it? Maybe you made them feel important without ever making them feel less than you. Maybe you never chased their approval because you already knew your own value. Maybe you carried yourself with quiet dignity while everyone around them acted from fear or desperation. Maybe you offered a love that felt rare, then stepped back just enough for them to understand how precious it really was. Maybe you reflected parts of themselves they had been hiding for years, their fears, their doubts, their loneliness, their need to be accepted, their wish to heal. their quiet hope of finally being seen. The moment they recognized themselves through you, everything changed. You stopped being just another person in their life. You became a mirror. And mirrors can be powerful in love because people do not only long for what they see in you, they long for what they discover about themselves because of you. Stay with me, because the next part explains why some people never truly recover from one unforgettable connection. Every person carries hidden parts of themselves that quietly shape the way they love without them even knowing it. That is why some connections feel almost impossible to explain. People often say, "The moment I met them, it felt like I had known them forever." It does not always mean destiny in the dramatic sense. Sometimes it simply means something deep inside recognized a familiar feeling. Sometimes the heart finally finds a shape for a longing it has carried for years. So when someone is completely in love with you, do not focus only on their actions. Look beneath them. Maybe they are not only in love with your smile. Maybe they are in love with the peace they experienced whenever you were close. Maybe they are not only drawn to your words. Maybe they are attached to the way you made them feel understood without needing to explain themselves. Maybe they are not only attracted to your personality. Maybe they love the fact that you never pretended to be someone else. You were simply real. And in a world where so many people wear masks, real honesty feels almost unforgettable. That is why genuine people leave lasting marks. They do not force themselves into someone's life. They quietly change it. Some people arrive like thunder, loud and impossible to ignore. Others arrive like gentle light, changing everything without making a sound. And very often it is the quiet light that remains long after the noise has disappeared. Don't click away yet, because what comes next may completely change how you understand love. Now let us go even deeper. There is something almost mysterious about love that grows in silence. When feelings cannot be spoken, they rarely disappear. Instead, they grow stronger inside the imagination. They become heavier with every passing day. The silence gives them room to expand until they begin filling every empty space in the mind. One memory becomes a movie played over and over again. One simple moment grows into a beautiful fantasy. One meaningful glance begins to feel like a promise. One unanswered message turns into a question that never stops asking for an answer. That is why some people become deeply attached after spending very little actual time together. It was never about the number of days. It was always about the depth of the emotional impact. One meeting can open a door. One smile can begin a journey. One act of kindness can awaken a longing that had slept for years. One respectful boundary can create a desire to become better. One absence can make that desire feel impossible to ignore. Once that longing takes hold, the mind starts doing remarkable things. It revisits old conversations, it replays forgotten moments, it asks endless questions, it imagines different endings, it compares every new experience to the old one. It hopes, it waits, it aches, and somehow the more it searches, the stronger the feeling becomes. Keep listening, because the next truth explains why this happens more often than most people realize. When someone becomes deeply attached, the deeper question is never only, who are they falling in love with? The real question is, what hidden part of themselves has this connection awakened? Many times, people are not only falling for another person, they are falling for the image that person brings to life inside them. The protector, the dreamer, the healer, the quiet companion, the one who makes them believe again. The one who reminds their heart how it feels to truly come alive. And yes, sometimes the person who loves you with incredible intensity is also someone who has never learned how to love gently. They understand longing, they understand desire, they understand chasing and imagining and holding on to hope. But they may never have learned the quiet strength of peaceful love. That is why wisdom matters. Being deeply desired is not the same as being deeply understood. Being placed on a pedestal is not the same as being truly appreciated. Being chased is not the same as being respected. Even so, once a heart has been awakened, its power is impossible to ignore. Suddenly they notice everything about you: your voice, your timing, your habits, your silence, your moods, your smallest changes that everyone else overlooks. They begin finding meaning in details that once seemed ordinary. They feel connected to you even when you are far away. And it all started because something inside them came alive when you entered their world. Maybe you made them feel chosen. Maybe you accepted them without judgment. Maybe you created a space where honesty finally felt safe. Maybe you loved them without trying to change who they were. Or maybe, most importantly, you made them experience a feeling they never imagined they could lose. That is often the moment healthy attachment slowly turns into obsession. Admiration becomes fixation. Attraction becomes a constant echo. That is why some people struggle to move on, not because they are weak, but because part of their heart became connected to the experience of you. Have you ever seen someone who looks completely fine on the outside while everything inside them is quietly falling apart over one person? They laugh with others but replay your words when they are alone. They fill every hour with work, yet every quiet moment leads back to you. They act as if they have moved on, but every new relationship feels empty because it cannot recreate the same emotional depth. That is what emotional imprinting looks like. And somehow, without planning it, you became that unforgettable imprint. You became the point they compare everything else to. You became the measure by which every new connection is quietly judged. That carries incredible power. But it also comes with risk, because once someone begins measuring everyone against you, ordinary experiences no longer feel enough. Their heart becomes unsettled. Their imagination refuses to rest. Their emotions pull them in opposite directions at the same time. Part of them wants closure, yet another part still hopes for another chance. They long for peace, yet they also miss the feeling you once gave them. They tell themselves it is time to move on, yet their thoughts keep finding the road back to you. That is exactly why this message matters. When someone is deeply in love with you, they have already crossed an emotional line they cannot simply step back over. And after that happens, everything you do carries meaning. Every message matters. Every silence speaks. Every promise leaves an impression. Every small gesture carries weight. Even tiny changes in your behavior become important. A heart that has reached this depth does not see your actions as ordinary moments. It sees them as signs of hope, signs of distance, signs of possibility, signs of disappointment, signs that the story is either continuing or quietly coming to an end. This is why uncertainty can become so emotionally overwhelming. The unknown feeds imagination. Imagination strengthens attachment. Attachment can deepen emotional pain. And strangely enough, that pain often makes the connection feel even more powerful than before. Stay with me, because the next truth explains why this happens far more often than people realize. At the deepest level, the reason someone becomes so consumed is rarely because they simply liked what they saw. It is because something inside them responded before logic ever had the chance to speak. You did not only catch their attention, you reached a quiet place inside them that had been waiting for someone to understand it. You did not only speak to their ears, you spoke to a hidden part of their heart that had stayed silent for years. You did not only enter their daily life, you entered their private inner world. And once someone is welcomed into that space, they are never completely forgotten. Here is something many people never consider. Sometimes people are drawn toward you so strongly because you cannot be controlled the way they expected. Not because you are cold, not because you play games, not because you enjoy distance, but because you already have a strong sense of who you are. Your happiness does not depend on constant approval. You do not spend your life begging to be chosen. You simply live with quiet confidence, and that kind of energy pulls people in almost like gravity. It feels different. It feels rare. Keep watching, because the next part may completely change the way you understand attraction. Most people become familiar with emotional confusion. They grow used to mixed signals, constant drama, and relationships filled with uncertainty. Then one day they meet someone calm, grounded, and emotionally steady. That contrast surprises them. Their body notices it. Their heart notices it. Their mind keeps trying to understand why this person feels so different. And because it cannot easily explain the feeling, it keeps returning to it. Human beings are often fascinated most by what they cannot quickly define. If someone is always available, people may stop noticing them. If someone constantly seeks approval, others may begin taking them for granted. But when someone is quietly confident, emotionally balanced, and comfortable with themselves, they often create a feeling that is difficult to describe. That feeling can slowly grow into admiration. Admiration can become deep affection. And sometimes that affection becomes the kind of love that refuses to disappear. Many people spend years hiding parts of themselves. Then they meet someone who naturally reflects what has been missing. A person who has buried their gentle side may feel drawn towards someone full of warmth. A person who has lived through endless confusion may hold tightly to someone peaceful. A person who has spent years feeling invisible may become deeply attached to the one individual who finally made them feel noticed. A person who has gone through emotional emptiness may cling to the one connection that finally made them feel full. That is why someone may love you with such incredible intensity. Without even trying, you became the answer to a longing they had never been able to explain. Don't click away now, because the final truth may be the most important of all. That is why your presence leaves such a lasting impression. That is why your energy matters more than you may ever realize. That is why even small actions stay alive inside another person's memory for years. People do not remember every conversation. They do not remember every detail of your appearance. But they almost always remember how they felt when they were with you. Feelings leave deeper marks than facts ever can. They settle quietly inside the heart and wait there. They do not disappear simply because someone wants them to. They do not fade only because time keeps moving forward. Feelings remain wherever they were once deeply welcomed and understood. Someone may change jobs, move to another city, meet new people, and build an entirely different life, yet still remember the one person who made them feel accepted, peaceful, inspired, or truly seen. That is why some memories survive every attempt to erase them. They are no longer only memories. They become emotional landmarks. They become reminders of what the heart now knows is possible. And once someone has experienced a connection that reaches that deeply, every future relationship is quietly compared to it. Whether they admit it or not, part of them keeps searching for the same emotional truth they once discovered in your presence. That is the quiet power of a genuine connection. It does not demand attention. It does not force itself into someone's life. It simply leaves a mark that time alone cannot easily remove. Some of the strongest emotional bonds are not created through huge, dramatic moments. They are built through small moments repeated over time. A simple act of kindness offered again and again. A warm smile that keeps returning. A gentle word of reassurance spoken when it matters most. Even a small disappointment repeated often can leave a lasting mark. A quiet absence felt over and over can become just as powerful. Slowly, the nervous system becomes familiar with your presence. The heart learns your rhythm. The mind begins building an entire story around you. Then, one day, without warning, they realize they are no longer simply thinking about you. Their thoughts keep circling back to you. You become the center of their emotional world. That is the moment love begins to feel like gravity. And gravity is one of the hardest forces to resist. Listen closely, because this next idea could change the way you see every meaningful relationship in your life. When someone loves you this deeply, there are only two ways to carry that influence. You can misuse it through pride and carelessness, or you can carry it with wisdom, knowing that every heart you truly touch becomes a responsibility. Once you reach someone's deepest emotions, you are no longer part of a casual connection. You become part of a story that may shape their life for years. Stay with me, because the next part explains why some people never completely forget certain relationships, even after everything seems to be over. This is why so many people remain haunted by connections that were never fully resolved. It is not because those relationships were perfect, it is because they changed something inside them. They opened a door that had stayed closed for years. They disturbed old emotions and awakened new ones. Even after the relationship ends, the emotional ripple keeps moving through their life. Maybe they never told you what you truly meant to them. Maybe they acted as if they did not care. Maybe they stayed calm on the outside while everything inside them was changing. Maybe they disappeared without offering any explanation. Maybe they fought against their feelings with everything they had. Yet beneath all of that, something remained alive. The heart often remembers what the lips never find the courage to say. Sometimes the strongest love story is the one that was never spoken aloud. That silence becomes difficult to carry. It turns into poetry. It becomes regret. It becomes longing. Sometimes it even becomes an unanswered question that follows a person for years. That is why people return. They do not always come back physically. Sometimes they return through memories, through dreams, through unexpected thoughts during quiet nights, through places that remind them of you, through songs, familiar scents, old photographs, simple names, or tiny moments that suddenly bring everything rushing back. Don't skip ahead, because the next truth explains why these memories become so powerful. By then, they are no longer connected only to your physical presence. They are connected to what awakened inside them because of you. And once that awakening happens, there is no easy way to become the person they were before. That is one of the deepest reasons certain attractions feel impossible to explain. They are not responding only to you. They are responding to the version of themselves that came alive whenever you were near, the version they secretly hoped to become, the version they feared, the version they believed had disappeared forever. Without realizing it, you became the doorway leading back to that forgotten part of themselves, and people rarely forget the doorway that helped them rediscover who they are. If someone is deeply in love with you, remember this above everything else. Love is not always proved through beautiful words. Sometimes it is revealed through actions, through consistency, through memories that refuse to disappear.